Yeah, today I need the dark.
Hello,
everybody. So Laura and I, as promised, are coming to you with an extra edition of our live this week, and we wanted to be able to what are we doing, Laura? We're giving shout outs, we're giving thanks, we're saying thank you to people that have helped.
We're both in the gratitude mode right now for December. And we just were bursting and said, why are we waiting until next week? Let's do an extra one and just let everybody know how amazing they've been to us and to our community, and, you know, give them a public shout out. Exactly. If they never see it, they never see it. If they see it, it'll make them smile, and maybe it'll inspire other people to think about ways they can be kind.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. So yeah. So Laura and I are good. We're getting quite good at this hour stuff, aren't we? Like just finishing all the time. So I think we'll be with you for an hour. We shall see how we go in terms of everything that we've got to say. I know we've both got lists. Laura's is highlighted, mine isn't.
She's the type A in me, the names are in green, the specific reason I'm grateful for them is written out. Oh my gosh.
I've just got a list of them. But we have said it may end up a bit like the Academy Awards. Like if we miss anybody, we're really sorry. We haven't meant to.
Exactly.
I think it was just the prep of the moment. So yeah, so today is just, shout outs, gratitude, thanks, and all that sort of stuff. So do you want to kick us off, Laura?
Yeah, this is fun. We can kind of go back and forth. So the first person I thought of was a woman named Laura Francis Marin, who was one of the first people to come to one of my Learn with Laura HR courses. And in the course, I have my whiteboard, and I said to everyone, you have to put your empathy hat on. And so I drew a hat. And after the class, she asked me for my address, and I gave it to her. And in the mail, she sent me an empathy hat. And she told me to wear it every time I teach the course. And now I do, and I tell people to put their empathy hat on. And I think of Laura every time. And it was such a kind gift and a generous gift, and of course, so thoughtful. And it really, because I was so new at making the courses, we all have that self-doubt. We don't know if it's reaching anyone. And this really reaffirmed that it meant something to her. And she's now landed in a great job. And, I just thank her for really being that generous and open with me.
That's amazing. And I know when you first started those workshops, you were a bit nervous. How will it land? Will anybody book? Will anybody come? Is this going to kind of reach there? So that must have been, and I know we've spoken about it before, but that must have been really lovely.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn.
So I'm going to start with a conversation that I had with the one and only Patty Mccord. So I have been, I think, a big fan of Patty for absolute years. And I reached out to her, I think, on the back of the fact that you and I had started to have these conversations, and was aware that I wanted to be more visible, but also at the same time wanted to give more back to the HR community and the people that we were talking to. And just reached out to Patty to say, would love to chat with you. Would you be up for having a conversation? And I got an immediate yes. This sounds awesome. Would absolutely love to join you. And I think I've said to everybody since, we didn't hit record right at the beginning of the conversation in order for it to go live. But I wish I had the camera rolling beforehand to just kind of bottle it up. The energy and the thanks and the appreciation, and also kind of some of the compliments that she was giving even before we kind of hit record on the conversation, just really, really warmed my heart, because I think for particularly the position that she's in and all of the work and everything that she's done, I think I also had this kind of, I don't know, like maybe she's a bit kind of unreachable, untouchable, and she was just absolutely amazing. So the fact that she was willing enough to just give me an hour of her time was just amazing.
Isn't it so cool when we have certain people on pedestals that we think of as influencers or thought leaders or people that are really like well known in the space, and then we realize they're just human beings and they want to get to know us too, and it's so cool.
Yeah, so I loved it. So my first one is to Patty.
I love that. Well, then I'm going to skip then to someone who's similar for me, who is Steve Brown, who many people know, who is in Ohio, who's very well known in the Ohio Sherm chapter. He's an author. He is, the king of positivity in HR. But something a lot of people don't know about him is he's also an incredibly vulnerable man. he can easily cry in a way that I find so powerful. And so early in March, when this was happening, he called me out of the blue, and I answered the phone, and he said, "How are you, my friend?" And the way he asked it was the first time I was able to cry at all since this started. And I thought, oh, great, here we go. And he is like the perfect person to cry to, because he was like, I understand, of course, so reaffirming. And I have thanked him so many times for that. And in fact, we were both speaking at Kind Fest USA a week ago, and Kayla was speaking, and she's a preacher and so prophetic, and everybody was really listening. And at the end, the camera went back to Steve, who was hosting it, and he was just sobbing. And I smiled to myself thinking, oh, I'm so glad we had that private tear moment too, because like it just comes so easily for him. And he wrote a blog about how crying is so powerful. And I just feel like, gosh, not only are there not enough men who speak about crying, but in general in HR, I don't think we really talk about how normal it is and how human it is, especially in a pandemic. So I always thank Steve for making space for that.
Lovely. And he is very visible. And I think there is definitely, I've never had a conversation with him. I've only kind of seen articles and those sorts of things. But I think there is a definite vulnerability there. And I think we just need that more in general.
Yeah, it's like so who he is, and exactly. It's like he's not preaching something he doesn't believe. It's like who he is. He can cry so quickly, he can feel so quickly, and exactly, I think that's what makes him such an extraordinary leader.
Yeah, perfect. I've got a joint one next, and there's two women called Kate Humphreys and Paula Evis, and so we were due to be starting some. We were supposed to be starting some work with them in March, and obviously pandemic hit. The day before I was due to start working with them, it was like, we cannot do this anymore. We're probably going to have to delay for 12 weeks. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think they were the first new clients that we worked with this year that had never done kind of remote working, remote learning, anything, but they trusted me fully in terms of, right, okay, you've told us you can do this remotely. How can we make it work? What can we do to really, really make this happen? And just their energy, their acceptance, their trust, everything. And I think being part of some of the team meetings that they were having across the organisation, being able to see the way that their MD was engaging with people, for me, they have just been, I suppose, like one of like what I could describe as like perfect clients. But I think they have also just embraced new ways, trust, vulnerability, openness, a completely different energy, adaptability, they've been innovative, they've been creative, and they were just really, really lovely, kind, warm, amazing HR people to have worked with. So we started so we didn't have a 12-week delay. We started within 4 weeks once they would kind of found their feet with the whole home working thing, and we just made it happen. And I think what they are, the way in which they are able to lead their HR team and therefore support the rest of their people within the organisation, I just think is amazing.
Such a good example of what people can be doing in HR. I love that. And yeah, I mean, none of us really knew how to tackle this new year. So the people who were early adopters, so to speak, to all these things we've been trying, it's just so powerful, right? They're like, why not? What's the downside?
Yeah.
We don't like it, we try something different. But it's that trust. It is. Yeah. I think that's something that, it's hard for some HR people to trust, right? Because there's kind of this guard of like, who's going to sell me into the wrong thing or who's going to lead me astray. But actually this idea of sort of assuming positive intent, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah, and it was just lovely. And they were just amazing people. We had some great conversations. Both were, we were just able to kind of be really open and honest in that entire working relationship. And it was just amazing. And they, I think, lifted me. And whilst again, from a company perspective, we've been working virtually with people for a long time. But I think they kind of really gave me the confidence that what we are doing does work. even if people are not sure whether they can embrace it or not. They were willing to give it a go, and I just loved it.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I mean, I don't know if people really understand what that means to a small business owner. It's like so powerful. You know, you have like cheerleaders who are just excited to be on the journey with us.
It's a big deal. You know, I think we've said before, haven't we? You know, for small businesses, like, this is the difference about whether we can, you know, pay our mortgages and put food on the table at the end of the month. It's a big deal.
Right. And it's like an act of kindness to choose to work with us. Like, it's not.
Because there are lots of other people out there that could do lots and lots of different things.
Exactly. Oh, that's hard to. Okay, I'm thinking of like fun transition from that one. I'm thinking of Jeffrey Shapiro, who I met on Twitter, who is talent acquisition here in New York, and he has become such a great friend through Twitter. And talking about trust, he's big. He gave me the Ernest Hemingway quote that's, I don't have it exactly in front of me right now, but basically the gist is that the only way to trust somebody is to trust them. So like, you just have to do it. And he's a big Brene Brown fan. We've talked a lot about being in the arena, and we both have talked about how to recruit well, it's like really just kind of about showing up so courageously to have difficult conversations with hiring managers, to give them the feedback that's constructive and actionable. And he and I have just had a lot of brainstorming sessions this year about better ways to manage hiring managers, better ways to have a candidate journey. And I've realized how much I appreciate that, because in the past, recruiters haven't always shared ideas, especially internal and external, which, you know, I've talked a lot about. But he's a classic example of an internal talent acquisition pro. I'm an external recruiter, and we come to each other with total trust, total vulnerability, willingness to learn. And it's really, we are learning, right? And we are trusting. It's such a cool thing to see. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for him and making me realize that there's so many relationships to be built in this community.
Absolutely. That's lovely. That's lovely. I think I've connected with him on LinkedIn as a result of some of your conversations. He reached out and he's like, we should be connected. I was like, yes, we should. So yeah, he's lovely.
He's a good balance. It's like, some people are good balances for your brain, because I'm very emotionally driven. He is actually really very data and logic driven. So when we brainstorm, it's kind of a fun, like, he has high emotional intelligence, but he can break it down in like bullets, you know, and my brain is just like, all these big ideas. Yeah.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's stick with trust then. So I want to go next with a woman called Lisa Hager, who is an HR director over here in the UK. And I think, again, Lisa and I have been connected for a while, and I think I have always really appreciated her, how should we put it, her directness, her kind of outspoken approach, the fact that she will just say it like it is. You know, she will call things out if she sees things wrong. But I think, again, this comes back to trust. I think we've had some really lovely conversations this year on the phone, via email, via LinkedIn, and again, she has trusted me. I've seen a different level. I've seen, I suppose, a bit more about her as the person and her background and where she has come from, and actually what drives her. And so I am massively grateful for what she was able to share with me about where she's come from and different things that have happened for her in her life. But also, I think that's given me much more of an understanding as to why she has the drive that she has. And she organised a call with Peter Cheese, like head of the CIPD this year, to challenge and to question why in some cases they are letting down some of the HR profession. And I suppose her allowing me to be a bit of a cheerleader for her from kind of behind the scenes and give that kind of level of support was great. But I also know that is reciprocated from her. And yeah, we've had some really open, honest, really kind of deep exchanges of kind of, this is where I am, this is what drives me, this is where I've come from. And that's been really lovely to see and be a part of.
I think you told me about her because she's really willing to talk candidly about what might be wrong with some of these HR structures, right? And kind of willing to like dismantle some of the antiquated thinking.
Absolutely. I mean, she called one out this week. So there was so Gymshark, massive up and coming organisation, like one of the fastest growing companies in the UK. Lots and lots of great stuff, great ethos, great culture, great leadership, all of these sorts of things. and she'd spotted a like person spec job description for somebody that they wanted to recruit within their HR team. And like, she just called it out on LinkedIn, like, this does not reflect your culture. Like, this is a load of rubbish. This does not reflect who your culture is. I very much doubt that this is what you would have written when you first started the business, and it's that energy that people are buying into. So basically, it's a load of crap. I'll redo it for you for free just to help you find the right person with the right energy. And I just thought that, like, we need more of that.
Right. Or like, I know that SHRM in the US and CIPD in the UK, like, while they're amazing for a million reasons, they've had some flaws this year in how they're handling a lot of the social issues facing our society. And so it's nice to hear outspoken people who are kind of driving that home. So it sounds like that's your person there.
Yeah, so I love that. Yeah.
That makes me think of here, Kayla Moncayo, who is an extraordinary Latino woman from Austin, Texas, who I met also through my course and through Twitter. And she has been, first of all, her blogs are extraordinary. I'll make sure that we share the link, but she's an incredible writer. And she's a big proponent of inclusion in HR and in workplaces, but not in a way that's just like esoteric and very buzzwordy. It's like she really speaks from her own experience. Wow. And in fact, she was in an HR leadership role and resigned because they did not handle the Black Lives Matter movement up to her standards, which is understandable. And she felt that they were really not embracing a path forward towards inclusion. And because she's so values driven and because she's so values focused, she really had no other choice but to resign. And what I love about her is if you follow her on social media, she brings us on that journey. So not only has she blogged about how painful that was and how hard that decision was, but how she's been coping since. So she has always been a restaurant worker. She's back general managing a restaurant. She is an amazing dog and horse trainer, and so she'll show you photos of how that's been healing her and how she is still interviewing actively for an HR role. The fact that she hasn't landed one yet shows me how tough the market is, because in a normal market, this person would have Kayla would have 20 offers in a week. But it's powerful to see the journey of an HR pro who's values driven and how heartbreaking that can be, because you have to say no and you have to pull away. And it would have been easier for her to stay. I'm just so inspired by it. I mean, I'm constantly sending her blogs to people who don't understand what I mean by values. I'm like, I think this is what it looks like. Wow. Really, it's like, it means you sometimes have to make tough choices.
It does. And we've had that conversation as well ourselves this year, haven't we? That we have said no to some clients because they have not been aligned to our values, even though potentially the ego side of our brain is shouting out, like, you're in a pandemic, take the money. Right. But there's lots of things that drive us. And I think, through the conversations that we've had together and the conversations that we've been having with other people, you are right. When you see that values focus from people, it shines, doesn't it? Like, it's just so obvious to see.
Yeah, and inspiring and brave. It's like, I think of the word brave and I think of people like Kayla. Like, that's what bravery is. It's saying, like, this does not work for me. My brand cannot stand in this situation. It's not good for my heart. It's not good for my HR philosophy. Like, none of this aligns.
Yeah.
And, I think if we had more bravery in HR, it would, like, really evolve so much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's stick with it, I suppose, on similar lines, really. So Julie Turney, who I know also shared the kind of best platform with you.
Julie is such a special person.
So again, I think in terms of energy, we've had some great conversations. We have, in some cases, been a little bit of a cheerleader for one another. But again, I loved her honesty. And one thing that we at the Chrysalis crew, not so much from the Kelly Swingler stuff, but one of the things that we've been talking about for a long time was diversity in HR and inclusion in HR. And one of our Changing the World of Work conversations that we'd arranged for kind of nearer the end of this year was definitely about that. And I think we were focusing on gender diversity and every kind of diversity. And I think definitely when the kind of Black Lives Matter stuff kicked off, it was like we cannot afford to not do this anymore. And one of the first people that I reached out to was Julie. And I loved her videos that she started to do. I think there was one that honestly, it was like we were talking, it could have been either one of us recording the video, and she was talking about her values, and she was talking about like the love of like Marvel comics and Marvel films and how that's kind of connected her more to her kids. And I think the video was like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
It just really resonated. Like there was so obviously so many differences between the two of us. Like we live in completely different countries. We're doing lots and lots of different things. But
right. For those who don't know, she's in Barbados in the Caribbean. It's very exciting to us who are in snow. I know.
Yeah. I haven't got snow. You've got snow. I've just got grey. But yeah, and I think just her energy, and I think also being able to watch her kind of grow and flourish this year has been something really lovely to watch, because there are so many of us that are out there at the moment that are struggling, that are losing jobs, that are doing all of that kind of stuff. And I think to see Julie start with these videos, and she's now, I think it was last week or the week before, kind of now announced that she's given up her full-time job. She's now started her own consultancy, really kind of again focused on values and putting people first and all of those sorts of things. And I think being able to watch her flourish throughout this year, I think has given, I would certainly hope so, but I think has certainly given lots of people lots of hope. And she's just an amazing personality. She's just lovely. Loved the conversations with her.
She is like, she is an amazing example of like women empowerment also for me. Like when I've had many conversations with her also, and she was just at Kind Fest USA, and we had a couple minutes alone in my little room that I was hosting. And I think she's just a real cheerleader for women kind of standing in their power and standing in their worth, and that we need to amplify each other's voices. And it's just such a joy. I mean, I think she literally does bring sun to us, even though it's kind of ironic, she's in the beach, but she brings that. She brings joy and light. I think she really, she's a rare bird, because she's so light and airy in HR. It just feels good.
Yeah.
That makes me think of Galen Emanuel, who is a very well-known speaker in the leadership development and culture space. He does a lot of work on how companies can transform their culture. And he's out of Portland. And we met also via social media early in this pandemic. He wanted a cooking lesson. I was up at Mom's house. And so we did a meatball making class, me and my mom and Galen, and it was hysterical. And if we had recorded it, it would be comedy. But my mom trying to teach this sweet Canadian guy in Oregon how to make a meatball through Zoom. And we have really bonded in a way that I am so grateful for. I remember when I shared it with you, just as we were talking about, so a company had come to me earlier this year with a search. Everything felt wrong about it, all the red flags. I did the same process I would tell everyone I'm coaching. I wrote down what the red flags were, made sure they backed with some logic and data. It wasn't just an emotional response. I realized this company doesn't value HR. They don't have a work-life balance. It's just about the money. They just want a figurehead. They don't really care. I can't take this search on. But I mean, I had such anxiety about it, because it was like in the middle of May when, what the heck else did I have going on? And I texted Galen. It was like 11 p.m. my time. He, ate his. I'm like, can I call you? I just really could use like a buddy. He's like, of course. And I just was like venting and ranting. And I mean, now I think about it, I was just having that spinning moment that we have as entrepreneurs. And, he started his business around the same year you and I did. So he's like, this is the right level. He gets it. And he just kept saying, like, with his appropriate curse words scattered in there, but, you're awesome. Just, you have to say no when it's no. You're too good for this. Of course not. Of course not. Like, just don't think twice about it. You email them in the morning, it's not right, no big deal. Just go to bed. Who cares? Let it go. And it was like the most empowering moment. I was like, yeah, of course, right. Just, I needed someone to talk me off that ledge. And I don't know, I thanked him a gazillion times for that call, and a million times more, because I think that those are the moments as entrepreneurs that we sometimes need, is to talk to a peer who's been there. Yeah. How did you get through it? because we understand, like, it's not just an easy no, right? I always say this to people, just like with Kayla's no and all of us, that it comes with turmoil. And it's helpful to have a buddy who gets it.
It absolutely is. Yeah, totally.
And that's not to mention the million other things he's amazing at. I mean, his YouTube channel, he gives away so much free content. He's an extraordinarily generous person. And so I guess that comes across even in just the way he's a friend.
Yeah, perfect. Love that. Yeah. So let's stick with the friend route. So I always find it really hard to kind of separate these two people. So I'm going to lump them together because they know they are two of my absolute favorite humans for some similar reasons and for some very different reasons. But I would love to shout out to Ian Pettigrew and David Faulkner. The three of us met in 2018. We were on a trip to Uganda, to voluntary trip. We were going to deliver training and development to a group of managers and a group of staff within the Ugandan team for Hope for Justice. They're a charity that basically wants to end modern slavery. They do loads around kind of child sex trafficking and so much stuff, like reuniting families and everything. The two of them are absolutely amazing. We had first met on the whatever day we flew over. And on the Monday, we were delivering our first workshop together. And the feedback that we got whilst we were delivering that first workshop from some of the people, like, how many years have the three of you been working together? And we were like, we met like 24 hours ago. But throughout this entire year, we have been having weekly calls. So the three of us get together every Friday. And we have been honest, we have picked each other up, we have given each other reassurance, and some of the reassurance and help that they have given me and some of the changes that I've wanted to make within the business that they have supported with. They both, David in particular, kind of went completely out of his comfort zone when I kind of asked him if he'd do like a live video call with me, and he's like completely out of his comfort zone, but he did it. And I was super, super proud of him for doing that. So just the fact that we have been able to do that and we have kept each other going and we have been able to talk about work challenges, personal challenges, what's been going on for us personally has, I think, made a massive, massive difference.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's something that for all three of us, even if like we've, I don't know, cleared our diary or we decided we're going to take a week off or we're going to do whatever, every single one of us, I know maybe had the odd occasion where we've just not been able to, but that has been the one thing in our week that we have not cancelled, because we know that we can get support or just have a bit of a vent before the weekend starts and just kind of get off our chest whatever it is that we need. And I will probably remain forever grateful for the two of them for everything that they have helped me and supported me with and listened. They've listened to rants, like you were saying earlier, in terms of the emotional stuff, like they've dealt with high emotions, low emotions, ranting, crying, laughing, positivity, the emotional roller coaster. They've listened to ideas and everything. And I've loved them since we went to Uganda together, but this year has really cemented that they are absolutely two of my favorite ever human beings.
And I think it's like, I don't know if everyone knows this about us, but it's not easy to cry for us. So like the fact that there are people who allow that is just so powerful, right? Because we're tired too. And it's like, there's not that many people when we're in a service profession that we can just like break down too. Because we're getting, I mean, you and I have talked about this, just so everyone knows, we love when you cry to us, but I mean, we literally get cried to daily, right? Like I'm in almost every call I'm on, someone's like, I'm having a hard time in HR. I'm like, I know. And I love it. And I the maternal side of me just loves to nurture, but we need places to go. So the fact that there are friends like that, I think that's such a gift.
Yeah.
The only other person, and she's on here for this reason, that I've been able to really cry to is Amy Miller. So Amy is a big tech recruiter on the West Coast. She has an amazing blog called Recruiting in Yoga Pants. She teased when she was on the HR Social Hour with Wendy and John, who are also amazing people to thank. She had mentioned me and said, Laura and I can just cry. And I realized, like, that's an amazing thing. It's true. Like, she has cried. She can cry much more naturally than I can, which I admire her for. So she had cried to me a few times on Zoom about a number of annoying recruiting things. And then somewhere this summer, when I was just having like a rough day, I messaged her, like, can you hop on a video? And I remember I was like so cranky and just like, and I just had my head in my hands and I'm like, Amy, this is hard. And she said, hold on, think about how far you've come. It's already September or August or wherever the heck it was. Like, you've made it 6 months, 9 months. And turned my whole day around because I hadn't looked at time that way. I was thinking, like, I can't believe it's August and this pandemic is still going. Her feeling was like, but you made it this far. And I don't know, that's a gift, right? That's such a gift that I'm grateful for, that she just made space in her crazy busy day. She's literally recruiting like, astrophysicists. God only knows if that's even the right language, but basically people who make spaceships.
Yeah, it's a word.
And she's busy, and this is not top priority on her to-do list, but to make 20 minutes for me just to melt, to say, you're doing great, we need you in recruiting, hang in there, it's going to get better. It was like, I don't know, it's powerful. And maybe it's because those of us who never get to be vulnerable at work, it's so cool when we can, and when we can do it in a safe place.
Absolutely. It does. It does make a massive difference. I think, as you said, for lots of reasons. I think those of us that are running our own businesses, those of us that are in the kind of services space, all of those sorts of things, we don't have that team environment. So being able to share ideas or share, what do I do today? It feels like the world is falling apart. And so I think it's even more important when we can recruit, if you like, for a better word, but like when we can recruit that team around us and make sure that we've got that support team to listen to pick us up, that will give us 10 or 20 minutes whenever we need it. Like, I just need you now. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's
and people who like can allow the room without just like jamming advice down your throat either. That's like a hard, because sometimes that's off-putting, right? You just want like someone to listen.
And we've spoken about that again before, haven't we? And again, I think that's one of the reasons why I love the conversations. I love our conversations. I love the conversations I'm able to have with Ian and David, because particularly for the three of us, with like Ian, David and myself, I think we're all coaches. So it can be very quick to go into coaching mode. And sometimes we do that with each other because like sometimes it's needed, and that's the only way that we're going to get the answers that we need. But actually just to have that space held, like, what do you need?
Right.
Like, I love that. Like, what do you need?
Cool.
I just need you to listen. Okay, fine. We'll listen.
Yeah. I was thinking, I'm just going to throw one in here because I was just thinking this. A woman I just met the other day on a Zoom with Jeffrey is Susie Benoit. I think I'm saying that right. Who, she is, I believe, a clinical social worker who's also been an HR professional who also has her own consulting business. And she taught me on Twitter the phrase overfunctioner, which I've talked to you about, and I've been reading so much about, that there are people who handle stress as overfunctioners, some who are underfunctioners, right? So underfunctioners are the type that just need to sit on the couch. It's hard for them to get motivated. They're struggling to get going. They, in a family crisis, will kind of like back down. In a work crisis, will sort of back down. And then the overfunctioner, so me, will be like, okay, I need to do things, action, let's go, here we go. And so I had never heard the phrase. Susie had mentioned it in a tweet about something I had said. And I thanked her so many times because that's given me such self-awareness that actually like explains why I don't love a lot of advice when I need to vent, because I'm just trying to, I don't need you to, like she joked with me, overfunctioners can't be overfunctioned, right? Like I don't need another overfunctioner to tell me what to do. I just need to share it. So it's a cool, I appreciate Susie for that, for bringing that self-awareness to me and for being willing to tweet about things that are how you tie psychology to HR and people, because there's so much there around like how we show up as business owners, as women in business. It's a lot of it is kind of like, do we know ourselves well enough to know what triggers us and how we operate in times of stress? So I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
So let's stick with business owners. So I would like to give a shout out to Mandy Withers.
Okay.
So Mandy, again, HRD, she does some interim stuff. She's also set up like a group and a network for independent HR consultants. And I don't even know if it was like this year that it started, but Mandy was one of these people that I suppose kind of came through the sidelines through kind of social media, and initially was just, I don't know, the only like a bit of a personal cheerleader, like so awesome, this was so amazing, well done for doing this, well done for doing that. I was like, oh, I love you. And then we've had some conversations this year, and again I got Mandy on a live conversation a couple of months back, but her energy and her compassion and her kindness in terms of just, yeah, I think cheerleader is the best way of doing it. Like she's like literally like, Kelly, you're amazing. And I've had some of the most beautiful messages from her that have, I think, will genuinely, like, they're never getting deleted, right? They are saved in a really special place that just lift me up. And I think through the conversations, knowing that she also does that for the independents within her community, she is just a really, really lovely person. And I've loved the conversations with her. I've loved her energy, her ability to, listen, to hold space, to pick you up, to tell you the stuff, like the kind stuff that I think that nobody else does. You know, that kind of like how, if you were speaking to yourself like you would your best friend, what would you say to you? Like, that is Mandy. Like, she tells you what you need to hear at just the right time. And I don't know how she does it, but I just get random messages from her out of the blue that I just like I really needed to hear that today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because she is so kind, I always want to then just like, and it is like, I want to reciprocate. I don't have to reciprocate, but I want to reciprocate because I know the energy that she gives out. I want her to also kind of receive some of that back. So just in terms of energy and passion and enthusiasm, I love her.
So I have a question, because what do you think it is that makes her compliments feel powerful? Is it the way, are they genuine, or are they specific? Because
all of that. They are specific. So it will be that thing you just did. Okay. I thought was incredible. That thing you just said was amazing. That support that I just saw you give, she's very. It is genuine, and I think you can just feel that when it comes across. I think some people, some people give compliments and some people give feedback, and you kind of like you kind of feels like you're just saying it, right? To say it, right? You kind of stroke my ego or whatever. Right. But definitely with Mandy, it is genuine, honest, open, kind, like definitely from the heart. Like you just feel it when you read it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that. That makes me think. So I learned something about compliments this year from Sarah Noel Wilson, who's also on my list. Sarah lives in Iowa. She's in the Midwest. She is also a massively successful woman entrepreneur. She does, similar to Galen, like coaching work for leaders. Her stuff is really interesting because it's more about neuro leadership. She really understands the brain. She's done a lot of funny videos on the amygdala. I've learned a lot from her about how our brain handles stress in HR. And she's been so kind to include me in some of her trainings. Like if she's had a huge company training and had an extra ticket, I've been able to come. And so I've done a few this year. She knows I love just being curious. And one of her taglines is chronically curious, which I love. But this just made me think of her. I had her for a different reason, which I'll share in a second. But she taught me on one of these trainings that when you compliment someone, you don't have to say like, I think you are. You can just say you are. You can just say, Kelly, you are extraordinarily humble. Kelly, you are extraordinarily generous. And so we practiced it in breakout rooms, and it was so awkward because none of us had really ever spoken to each other that way. We realized how often we do like, well, I see you as, or I think you are, or I hope it's okay if I say this, and like how powerful it is just to be like, and so she does it, and she practices it with me, and I'm always grateful for that. Like she'll say, like, you are innovative, you are forward thinking, you are changing lives, you are, and I feel it, like it's such a statement. And the reason I have her on this list is she had done a post that went completely viral. Like literally, I think Disney World had retweeted it and like random celebrities, but she had done a blog post about to be a human in a pandemic. what it actually means to be a human being going through this pandemic. And of course, in her way, made us all feel like, wow, even as leaders in a pandemic or as HR pros in a pandemic, like what? And so at one point she had a hashtag like to be a blank in a pandemic, and you could fill it in. And I had so much fun with it. I thought, oh my gosh, to be an extrovert in a pandemic, to be a New Yorker in a pandemic, to be single in a pandemic, to be a business owner in a pandemic, to be a recruiter in a pandemic. And I thank her so many times that that's been a fun outlet for me to realize that I'm not alone, because when I've tweeted those things, other people have messaged me to say, oh, me too, or I feel this too, or but she has it now pinned on her Twitter, so Sarah Noel Wilson, so anyone can go back and read the original thread, but it's very comforting. And I think she's just a good example of living her values and also teaching us like how our feelings are often backed by something in the brain. And then if we want to change as leaders, being aware of thought, feeling, again, bringing the psychology into the neuro leadership. And it's just really forward thinking way of working.
Love it.
Yeah, you really like her. I'll have to get you two connected.
Yeah, do. This next person, I've not really had any direct contact with, but when I was doing this list, she still really sprung to mind for me. And so what was it about this woman that made me think of her as I was doing this list? Because I genuinely have not had any. We've had a couple of messages on LinkedIn,
so cool.
But there was something with her that stuck with me. And this is a woman called Caroline Foster. And Caroline is, I think, now global HRD, but was made redundant. I think at the beginning of this year, may have been towards the end of last year. But her presence on LinkedIn and her messages of hope, really, from I am a senior HR professional that is looking for a job, but I'm not going to compromise my values. She was very open about the amount of interviews that she'd had, the amount of rejections, the amount of no responses whatsoever that she'd had. She would kind of give regular updates about how many connections she was up to and what she was doing to help with those connections, to help her reach and all of that sort of stuff. And ordinarily, some of that stuff would just really, really switch me off. But there was something in the way that she did it that just made it so genuine, and I think gives so much hope for not just in the HR community, but I think for so many other job seekers, that actually it is hard, but I'm not going to just get a job for the sake of getting a job. This has to be the right job for me. This has to be the right organisation for me. They have to be aligned to my values. Everything about this has to be right for me. I'm not going to compromise.
Yeah.
And therefore, these are all of the rejections that I'm getting and everything else that's getting. And she still continues with her messages. So she did secure a job earlier this year, which was great. But she has continued with that motivation and that hope for so many other people.
Yeah.
When I was writing this list, she just really, really came to mind for me.
I love that. Yeah. Because I think you and I are grateful for people who are lifting the community, right? We're grateful for people who are speaking to HR. I mean, it's sort of like this feeling of sometimes it's so general and HR pros don't feel like they know if other people are going through things. So people like that who, you said it was Carolyn, right? So people like Carolyn who are willing to say, this is hard, but this is how I'm coping. This is what I'm doing. I have someone similar, Rachel Kitty Couples, who has been job searching this year. And she is also on the West Coast. And she is very kind of like massively positive about it. She's very authentic about being a talent acquisition leader in a pandemic is hard when you're out of work. But even her Instagram page, like almost every morning, she'll put some inspirational quote. She loves Wonder Woman, and she'll remind us that we're warriors and we're strong. And she, I don't know, she's made the job search both. She lets other job seekers know it's hard and know that it's draining, and that, you can stay positive and stay hopeful and know that it will turn. And I think that's a gift she has to really, I know it's a gift she has to really help people feel heard and seen and excited, right? They're not like drained after they read her post, but they also don't feel like it's all sunshine and rainbows either.
Yeah. And it is, isn't it? It's the realness. Like we cannot, and again, you and I were having this conversation last week, but I think it's really easy for all of us to like, I don't want to talk about the bad days. I don't want to talk about the reality. I've just got to continue to paint this really positive picture all the time. And it's this positive picture that's going to get me all of the likes. But again, I think the likes of you and I and many, many others see past all of that kind of, roses and rainbows, because it's we can see through the like disingenuous posts and comments and all of that sort of stuff. And again, I think like we've both said, sometimes that's really hard and can be really hurtful, because it's like, why is that person not being genuine? But at the same time, we much more appreciate when people can be honest and just tell it like it is.
Yeah. All right. Who's another genuine person that you want to thank then? Who's somebody that feels like they show up with the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I've got loads on my list. But top of my list, I think, would absolutely have to be Claude Silver. I think in terms of integrity and authenticity, from a genuinely values-driven, heart-centered leader, she has it. And again, I think she has, it probably sounds like a total cliche, but I genuinely think she has just been this beacon of light throughout this year for women, for parents, for the HR community. She has said when she is struggling. She has openly said, actually, I've had situations where I have reacted that's not been in line with my values. This is how it's made me feel. I am still trying. I am still improving, but I will always come back to I will always come back to my true north. So even if I get it wrong, I question it, I go back, I try to fix it. She has, similarly, she was in New York, like this is New York in a pandemic. This is New York in a pandemic with like a 2-year-old, like this is hard. But she's also just kept going. And I know, I sent her sort of messages over Thanksgiving, and just sent her a quick one yesterday, just wanted to wish you and the family kind of a happy Christmas before we switch off. And again, just her responses, the way that she messages, the way that she talks, the way that she shows up and presents herself, I just love.
Yeah, and she's really been so progressive even with her titling, right? Isn't she like a chief heart officer?
Oh, that's the one.
So it's so kind of groundbreaking the way that she leads in HR.
Yeah. But you meet her in person, like again, it sounds like a total cliche, but like you feel the love of her, you feel like the positive vibes and the positive energy as soon as you are in the same room as her.
Yeah.
And I think that is a definite gift.
It is.
In order to be able to just exude that energy.
Well, and it makes me think of, HR somehow in the last 5 to 10 years has become so data, metrics driven, business driven, analytics, which again, all fine, all good, technology, good, great. But somehow we were sort of shaming the heart-led HR leaders, right? They're too soft, they're too kind, they're too emotional, they're too vulnerable, toughen up, thicken up. But then you think of who we admire. We talk about Steve Brown weeping openly. We talk about Claude Silver calling herself a chief heart officer. And frankly, that is a gift. And those people are gifts to our community. So I don't know. I think the pendulum is swinging back a little bit now from data, heart. We're finding there's a happy balance here.
Yeah, we definitely need to find that measure. So yeah, we'll see where we go. Have you got anybody else on your list? I've got some. I could quickly reel them off.
Oh yeah. I'll just mention Eric Kershat, who owns Harmony Insights out of the Midwest. He was doing the most amazing thing this year. It was like, I think he was calling them HR lunch dates. He had me as a guest on one. And they were free to join on Zoom, and 10 or 20 HR people would just show up, and we would speak and share ideas and talk as a group. And it was a safe and happy community where he's big into philosophy and community and connection, and so really wanted to kind of nurture that, even though he couldn't do it in person. And I hadn't met a lot of the people on those groups before then, or him really, and now they've just been such a nice part of my community. And I really thank Eric for being willing and open to create that, to build that. It took work, of course, I think it was multiple times a week, or at least every week that he was doing that. And so I think the people who are willing to sort of think quickly on their feet of ways to bring HR pros together during this time. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
All right, good. We'll run through the last few while we have a couple more minutes. You go next.
Okay. So I want to, again, jointly. So Lindsay Pace,
okay.
Who I know Sue had reached out to at the beginning of the pandemic, and again has been a total cheerleader for everything that I'm doing, everything that we are doing, you know, in terms of kind of both businesses. And subsequently then recommended me to speak at a forum that I was at last week. And the first forum had sold out within 24 hours. So we then did another one. So we did 2 last Thursday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. The comments and positivity, and that was organised by, the event was organised by a woman called Kay Massey, who this morning has sent me a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a lovely kind of thank you card for last week. So I think
between post the flowers on Instagram. It makes me happy.
I love it. So I think in terms of that, so yeah, again, cheerleading, like really maybe not knowing who we were at the start of this year and then going on to be huge advocates, I think has been amazing, putting us forward, following what we do, supporting all of that sort of stuff. Definitely to Kay for the opportunity. And that was, yeah, just lovely. And I suppose in terms then of gifts, if you like, my friend Jo Menon, who, I've got it here. I was happy one day, I was just like, today I'm just not feeling it. And Jo does a lot of kind of HR project management. She also does kind of coaching and loads of stuff with horses. And so instead of a stress ball, she sent me a stress horse. So a Mojo Project stress horse. And again, I got a lovely kind of
cute, Kelly.
Okay. So this is my stress horse. So if I get stressed, I have a stress horse.
Cute.
I think, again, Joey's just a lovely energy. Lindsay is a lovely energy. Kay is a lovely energy.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I just got a book in the mail from a new HR friend, Tina Marie Woolfield. Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. She I met through Eric's group, and she has her own group called HR Unite, and she invited me last week it was a group of HR women in the Midwest, and again, I was just so happy to be included as the token New Yorker, and she's incredibly kind, Tina Marie. She's been encouraging me to write a book, which I've been talking to you about. So she's like, read mine, see if it's inspiring, but this is the publisher I worked with. So she's been a nice advocate for kind of pushing again to me outside my comfort zone. There were a couple of just things people have said to me this year that I wrote down that I think are just really cool to think about. William Tincup, who owns Recruiting Daily, who's like a huge influencer. Again, another person I had on a pedestal that I didn't know I could actually speak to, and we have spoken a few times. And you know, he's in Texas and total different life than me, and yet such an openness to kind of hearing more about me. And he interviewed me for a blog, and one of the questions was, what keeps you up at night? Like about HR, about recruiting. And I just loved that question. I know some people have issues with that question because it means like literally what keeps you up at night and we should be promoting sleep. I don't view it that way. I understood what the question meant, like what is nagging at you about our field. And I've thanked him for that question because it's really given me pause to really consider, like that kind of comes back to my why and my purpose.
Yeah,
like, it's such a brilliant question. Yeah. And Heidi Pancake, who I met in March, I was out in Los Angeles before this happened the first week, had to come home. Heidi and I met, she's an HR leader in Los Angeles, and we were out for lunch. And then somewhere in May or June, when I was trying to take a day off but didn't know how, I tweeted, like, I'm having trouble not working. And Heidi wrote back, just stare at your navel if you have to. And I have thanked her privately a million times for that one because it's such good advice. It doesn't matter. You don't have to read, you don't have to watch a movie, you don't have to take a bath, you don't have to light a candle, just sit down and stare at your navel. And I think I did. I think I just literally like, let's see if this works. And it did. It just takes you away from the screen, away from the work. So again, a subtle, funny bit of advice, but it stayed with me this whole time.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Love it, love it. So I'm going to do a quick run through. So I think, so there's a guy called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but a guy called Dennis Barnard, maybe, who again, I've never met in person, I have never spoken to, but his comments, his posts, he will tag me in comments where basically people are talking about rubbish on HR, like, we'll get Kelly Swingler's view on this. And he, again, has just been another total cheerleader. Through some of his posts towards the end of this year, he then started to tag myself and Laurie Ruterman in some posts, like, these are two women that we need to be speaking to. These are two women that are driving some change. And so I think from that, his comments then inspired me to reach out to Laurie, who, you know, I spoke to on Tuesday. But even like his comments, that like he was so excited about the conversation, he sent me some lovely messages afterwards. So I want to say thank you to Dennis for all that he's done. I then think I want to just, I think I'm going to say, I'll say one more and then I've got two more. But I think one other, I think Deborah Cory, who again I met a couple of years ago through some events for Reward Gateway, but I know that Deborah has had some challenges this year for lots and lots of different reasons. But I really want to give her a shout out because I think she has still continued to show up and add value and do everything that she possibly can to support. She and I have had some kind of just private conversations. She's checked in on me, I've checked in on her. And I think at the beginning, she was one of the kind of very first people outside of my immediate team to just be like, how are you? Do you want to catch up? And I was like, actually, yes, I do. Thank you very much. And I think being able to repay that favor to her throughout this year, again, has kind of meant a lot to me. I'm not always particularly good at kind of reaching out. But again, I think being able to do that was lovely. So yeah, I want to say Deborah. I have got a few others, but we can maybe do those another time. But two that I want to definitely thank, and I'm thinking she's still watching. So one is Sue. So Sue, obviously from the crew, and I think again this year, like, Sue has had some personal challenges, and I know with lockdown there was lots of worry about whether she would still be with us or not, and you know, were we going to keep her, would we be able to afford to keep her, all of that sort of stuff. But Sue has worked tirelessly behind the scenes on all of the crew stuff. She has reached out, and I know she has helped so many other HR people in terms of giving them support, giving them resources, giving a listening ear, and doing everything that she possibly can to help as many people within the HR community. So yeah, big hug, Sue.
I agree. I see Sue always promoting these live videos, all of her creativity with social media, her genuine voice. It's really powerful. And so I agree. I appreciate her very, very much.
Yeah. And finally, you.
You took it before me. You were my last one too. I know. How could we not thank each other? My goodness.
Yeah, I've loved it. And again, I think we have, I don't know, like, I think we reached out at the right time. We have had so many conversations offline, and, you know, being able to kind of bring all of this, you know, I think we've shown vulnerability, we've shown upset, we have, I don't think there's much that we haven't spoken about. Like, we've spoken about personal stuff and family stuff and all the stuff that we've got going on in our heads. We've spoken business, we've spoken HR, we've spoken exercise, we've spoken cancelled plans, we've spoken future plans, we've spoken everything. So I love you.
I love you too. And I'm very grateful. And it's like, it's just one of those gifts that it's hard to even put into words. Yeah, you've been an extraordinary addition to my life this year, and I'm very grateful for you. And I think next week will be good for us. We've both decided that we want to talk to you all about really who we are and what we do. We're not good at self-promotion or talking about our businesses because we value humility probably to a point of detriment. But it's time for us to really share what our expertise is and our history. So in a way, we'll kind of interview each other a little bit for you so that you know more about who we are professionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
But today was really about our community, and a big, huge thank you. We would not have gotten through 2020 without this kind of love and support and encouragement and cheerleading. And there are hundreds of other people we could have mentioned. And hopefully we thanked you as they've come along, so you know we mean it.
Absolutely. And again, I suppose just a final shout out to like literally everybody in HR. Like Laura and I see you, hear you, feel you, all of that kind of stuff. Like we have absolutely been cheerleading for you this year, and I know many, many more of you have been doing exactly the same for us. You have been working tirelessly, you have been pushing, you have been struggling, and I suppose, like, from both of us, and I'm sure Laura has also got something to say, but like, just thank you for keeping on going, and thank you for doing everything that you have done this year for other people. Please start to do some of it for yourselves.
Yeah, now it's time to rest for the holidays. Try to take some time off for Christmas or New Year's. Stare at your navel if you have to.
Yeah.
Sit on the sofa. Just enjoy all your hard work and celebrate all your hard work, even if you don't feel like it's been huge accomplishments. Kelly reminds me all the time, it doesn't have to be big, massive accomplishments. It's like, you've gotten through 2020, that's enough to celebrate. So big hug to everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. See you Tuesday. Bye, bye, bye.